ShinRobjira.
So frozen meat slab Shin Godzilla is going to be standing quite tall. Yes, he's a very big boy. But if you straighten his tail out and you go off the measurement based on his tail, yeah, he's pretty big. Frozen aisle freeze-dried beef ravioli meal Shin Godzilla over here is, surprise, surprise, going to move mostly the same as every Shin Godzilla to come before him. Can't really speak for after him, but, you know. The ball joints are tight and responsive. I don't feel like I'm pushing anything too far when I'm trying to pose him. It's a good time. My only complaint is this leg over here. It's a bit on the loose side. Thankfully, not windmill field loose. Like, it's not going to be going crazy on a windy day or anything like that. But there were a few times while posing this thing where I had to re-shift the leg just so the figure didn't topple over. But it's kind of like Sonic 06. You play around the glitches and you have a good time. Although I would definitely say this is way more enjoyable than Sonic 06. This is the one downside to talking about figures I've already talked about that are hyper-articulated. It's just, unless there's a major change stated, it's going to be a paint and detail show. And as far as Shin Godzilla goes, that's essentially all this figure has become across its many different releases. Was the night color version retooled with a better, longer looking tail? I don't know. Maybe, probably. I'm never picking that up. Although orthochromatic, though, that's another story. But back on track, ball joints are nice, articulation's nice, it lends itself immediately into posability. Gonna give articulation a solid star, and I know everybody likes to point and kind of laugh, it's just like, it's a posable statue, this guy didn't move. It's like, yeah, I get that, but I also don't at the same time. It's like, it's a cool looking paint job, you either want it or you don't. Every posable figure becomes a statue until you pose it yourself once more. So again, I really don't see that argumentative point. It's like, yes, it's funny. I will admit, it is funny. Maybe even a little desperate in some points, but yeah, it doesn't bother me. And honestly, with this paint job and with all the details illuminated in such a beautiful and fantastic way, this is kind of like the definitive Shin Godzilla, next to that of the maquette version. And being able to recreate promotional stills, scenes from the movie with this particular paint job, it just gives the S.H.MonsterArts Shin Godzilla mold and sculpt everything a lot more credit, as the entirety of it isn't muddled and completely brought down by a more than lackluster paint job. Posability is fantastic. I love getting this guy into poses he was never in. It just adds to the mystique. It brings forth the details, as I already said. Gonna give it a solid star. It looks fantastic. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this here review and talk about paint and detail. Frozen Shin Godzilla has the honor of attaining one of S.H.MonsterArts' better paint jobs as far as the Shin brothers go. What I really love about this paint job overall is that, well, first of all, it's not shitty, and second of all, it has this cool effect going on. I mean, you look at the chest over here, and what was once an absolute nightmare of just terribly blended colors is now dark gray and light gray. And it was done in such a way, bars, where the paint almost looks like it was scratched on. Y'all ever see any of the YouTube shorts or TikToks of people doing scratch art? They take a sharp knife to something glossy and black and then they just etch all this cool stuff onto it. That's what this looks like to me. Granted, obviously, that's not what it is, because just look at that goopy lower jaw right there. Yeah, I guess something deep down just had to bitch about something. But that is one part of a whole figure. And I really do love how the gray paint that was added on just helps accentuate all of the different bumps and grooves adorning Shin Godzilla. There's going to be some areas like the bicep over here that looks like it really could have used more than it got. Meanwhile, this one over here did much, much better. But everywhere you look on this thing, it's amazing, as I can finally see what, like, genuinely see what people have been saying about this mold overall. It is so incredibly detailed, and this paint job brings it all to the forefront and just makes this guy look amazing. Looking at the inside of Shin Godzilla's mouth, his vaginal throat orifice over here is definitely going to be seeing brighter days, although the inside of his mouth not so much, but the detail is still nice. The teeth certainly didn't get too much love this go around. I mean, some of them aren't even fully painted, but this definitely helps with the overall look, feel, and vibe of the figure, so can I really be mad at it? Yes, but I'm not. As you can see here on the opposite side, some will be painted, some will not. I really do like how the membranes look this go around. Because again, with this paint job, the details are brought forth to such a beautiful degree. Now that's not to say that the figure is perfect, no. There are a few dorsal fins that are painted in questionable ways. As you can see, this guy is totally gooped in gray. This guy is half gooped in gray. And when you look at the opposing side, they don't match at all. But this isn't cope, I swear. But can we really say that's a paint defect and not just a paint technique? Or who's to say that it wasn't intentional? Okay, yeah, I realize this is cope. Cope or not, though, you gotta admit, this guy's supposed to look frozen, and especially over here on the dorsal fins, he surely looks frozen. Wouldn't you know it, the more you bend him forward, the more the painting technique that was used for this guy becomes exceptionally obvious. I mean, just look at this. This back, these heat vents, this fleshy disaster, they look great. Some of them a bit more than others, sure. My biggest compliment here being, they're not mismatching. One doesn't look better than the other. They all look the same. And thankfully this time around, all of them looking the same means they all look great. And that can very easily be said for dorsal fins going on over here. I mean, some of them a bit grayer than others, sure. We've got this light bright looking MF in a field of just death. Some of them have more paint than others, but oh god, the detail, I can't be mad. Even when looking at this little sectional piece over here, obviously more gray than needed, but the overall message and the overall look of this death metal forest of nuclear pointy things, they just look great. Now, the other part of the figure that thankfully isn't mismatching is going to be the tail, although there will be some goop. Yes, we're not going to get 3 different kinds of reds and oranges and unpainted isms going on with Shin Godzilla's tail, because it's all equally painted. And the way the tail is painted on the sides and even on the bottom, oh my god, it's praiseworthy beyond the kazoo or whatever. No, we're not talking about that yet. It just amazes me that when simplified, S.H.MonsterArts can really knock something out of the park. I mean, sheesh, man. Unlike Godzilla Earth and Burning Godzilla 2019 before him, YouTube timeline-wise, this guy's, all the segmentations are mostly painted. I mean, you will get a gap like that ever so often. I mean, as far as my copy goes. But even if they were all unpainted at the most direct curve possible, it still looks good because for a paint job like this, it just kind of works. The only way it wouldn't work at all is if it was just left entirely barren. I mean, just look at how great Shin Godzilla's hands look this go around. Holy Christ. Genuinely amazed that those details actually saw the light of day at all. And that particular comment can kind of be used to describe the entirety of this figure as a whole, because Jesus, look at that beautiful shot. Yes! One of my absolute favorite points being the eyes. One of the absolute worst misses in regards to other Shin Godzillas from S.H.MonsterArts is just that one I'd be looking down, the other'd be looking straight like that way, and it seemed like it varied from copy to copy on a really bad scale. Here, they're just white. Originally, I thought they were like glossy black with just some white painted onto it, but looking at this shot here, they almost look sunken in. It's almost kind of a spooky effect too, but overall, I mean, the detail around the eye is fantastic. I love that they are the most solid white thing on this figure, bar none. And I really like that the eyes are extremely discernible even from far away. I mean, you can see that eye very well. You can see this eye a little bit. I can't tell if it's just the sculpt or if it's just the way I have the head posed, but I like that. I like that it's just that white. I say that about myself on a sunny day. You can see me from 3 miles away. And I think I've completed my overall suckfest of just talking about this figure's paint job, so I'm going to give paint and detail 2 solid stars. The figure looks fantastic, and we're gonna cut to my face real quick. Bandai. Tamashi Nations. S.H.MonsterArts. Am I talking directly to John MonsterArts right now? I'd really like to, because where has a paint job like this been with a standard Shin Godzilla? I know we're getting orthochromatic, and that too is featuring a much more solid looking paint job. I believe it's matte paint as well. Thank you, Matt. The original Shin Godzilla is a soggy scab you see floating on the surface of a pool. The Night Color Shin Godzilla looks cool, but I don't want to have to light my Shin Godzilla figure from the back to get the effect of how he looked in the movie. It's a cool idea, don't get me wrong, but I just want a flat black Shin Godzilla with red where it needs to be, please. That's all I'm asking. Bandai, do it before Haya beats you to it. That's not a threat. That's just... It's probably gonna happen, maybe, hopefully. Haya, please. But now we can talk about this figure's other new inclusion, the tip of the tail, the fifth form, the hybrids, the humans. Here we are at the tip of the tail, featuring the Godzilla human hybrids erupting from the tip of Godzilla's tail, and I really love how this turned out. We've never really gotten a piece, a figure, or anything of these things, and I feel like it's just because they're so taboo, they're at the end of the movie, but I think S.H.MonsterArts accomplished something really beautiful and equally as disgusting here. Because this is probably one of the more polarizing aspects of Shin Godzilla. The fact that this undefeatable, piece of mutation humanity, his last resort was to make his own version of what was killing him. That's scary. And I believe this was confirmed to be like a recreation of that famous painting that I can't remember the name of. Whether it was confirmed or if it was just like, hey, these look similar, it might be one of the two. But again, the detailing over here, oh my god, it looks so very good. You can see that some of the hybrids' mouths are opened. You can pick out certain tiny, minute little detailings within them. It's probably my favorite inclusion on this figure, wholeheartedly. And the further you climb to the tip of Shin Godzilla's tail, the grosser it really does get. Because as you can see, the face that was present on Shin Godzilla's tail is much more obvious and easier to see, and we could very clearly see the mouth, the rows of teeth in there. It's disturbing. It's disturbing to say the least, and I love how it looks here. I love that this fleshier tone of paint over here, it only appears here, it only needed to appear there, and I'm glad that it's not just over here. I'm glad that it's actually present on some of the hybrids as well. Be it in their mouths, on their backs, at the center of their chests and such. This is just such a cool, fun, and awesome inclusion. And the closer you look at some of these hybrids, the more it kind of becomes existential. You can see what appears to be. This is just my take on it. Some of them crying out in pain. We got homie over here holding his head. Like, something about this scene, something about this being recreated in toy format, it's interesting. It's scary. It helps me appreciate this overall portion of Shin Godzilla as a character in a movie overall. And it's something like this that helps make the Shin Godzilla discussion stay all the more alive, because just what in the goddamn of hell? I love it. I love it so very much. And I'm gonna give the tip of Shin Godzilla's tail over here a solid star in terms of paint, detail, and that's it. I was going to say articulation too, but none of these are articulated. Yeah, okay. I'm done gushing about the tip. Giggity. I like to think Shin Godzilla has a face at the tip of his tail and is able to create human-esque versions of himself, because I think it's Goromaki, honestly. The man disappears, Shin Godzilla appears. Who's to say that the final piece to Shin Godzilla wasn't human DNA? Is that even alluded to? Is that so much of a weird theory? I don't know, but I like it. Now let's take a look at some size comparisons and other stuff. Shokugan, movie, King Series, HG, Deform Reel, Kid Robot Mystery Mini, Finger Puppets, my favorite boy, NECA, Haya. Ah yes, and here's the box, the figure, recreating that final ghastly scene from the movie where we see the hybrids, Godzilla's fifth form, erupting from the tip of his tail. Very cool stuff, very nice. Let's move on. And now let us begin the final leg of this here video, the comparison. And to be completely honest, I could end this all right here because you all know exactly what I'm going to fucking say. What in the hell? Give me this with these colors. Please, Bandai, please, please. Bandai, I need a screen-accurate monstrosity, not a monstrosity in and of itself. I mean, could you imagine if all of that gray was red and the darker gray was just jet black? I understand that Shin Godzilla wasn't exactly jet black. It was a fleshier mixture, but this ain't it. Why is his diaper less glossier than the rest of his friggin' limbs? Why is his tail multicolored? I mean, hello, cool, bitch, why? What the flying front doorsicles? See, look at that. They all match. They all look the same. Now look at that. What? Oh my god, we're playing musical paintbrushes with these things. I'm not going to go for much longer. If you want to see me bitch and moan about the original reissue Shin Godzilla for, what was it, 36 minutes? I'll link that in the comments section down below, the description, and at the end of the video. It hurts to look at this thing because it is so far from the friggin' mark, it's painful. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that Shin Godzilla is an easy design to capture, because it most certainly is not. It's intricate, it's fleshy, it's painful to look at, from a good point. I admire Bandai was able to get at least some things right, but Bandai, we need a redo. We need an official redo. 10th anniversary, it's coming up soon. I want this much love and care adapted into this gentleman right here. Yes, we have more than enough Shin Godzilla figures to go around, and we're only getting more come November, I know. But Bandai, please, do this for me. Show the world that you can, before Haya does it first. Anyway, that's about enough out of me, everybody. I do so hope you all enjoyed this here video. It was a joy for me to finally talk about an S.H.MonsterArts Shin Godzilla that didn't suck. And hey, if you like the original, the reissue, if you enjoy that paint job, more power to you, because at the end of the day, you don't need to buy another one. And if Bandai ever does what I was hoping for here, I mean, maybe you'll buy it, but you won't have to be me. And that's good. I have to extend out a much belated and loving thank you to Dorky Films. It is all because of him that I have Mothra and Rodan, 2019 Godzilla, Burning 2019 Godzilla, Godzilla Earth, Frozen Shin Godzilla, and Special Color King Ghidorah. Let's just say with that first batch of figures, I only paid $6 for it. Thank you, Alex. Your kindness knows no end.